was just a broad introduction. I'll now hand over to my colleague Stephen, who will take you through the 4 C's, as well as how to read an IGI report and read a Tessera jewelry report. Stephen.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so since today we're primarily focusing on diamond jewelry, it's important that we go over the 4 C's, or the 4 most important factors in determining the value of a polished diamond. So I'm sure many of you have heard of the 4 C's before, and these are listed in order of the most influential towards a diamond's value, in descending order to the least influential. So beginning with carat weight is simply the measurement of weight of a diamond in carats. So which correlates a larger carat weight means a larger size diamond, and therefore the value of the diamond is going to be higher. Next we have color. So the most colorless diamonds, when we're speaking about white diamonds, are going to be diamonds of the highest value. Next we have clarity. Also many of diamonds have slight imperfections or natural characteristics. Diamonds which are free of internal characteristics are of course the most valuable. And finally we have the cut grade. And the cut grade is just a determination of how well the rough crystal was finished and polished by man. Okay, so for the carat weight, the carat is simply a weight measurement. And when we're talking in the trade, the 1 carat is broken into a unit called points. So when we're talking about a half carat diamond, 0.5 carat, you'll hear many people in the trade call this stone a 50 pointer or a half carat. The same goes for a 25 pointer, 0.25 carats. This would be a quarter carat size diamond. And many times we're referring to round brilliants, but different shapes of the same carat weight may appear of a different size. So you can see on the left side here, this is a round brilliant 1 carat stone. But when you have fancy shapes, sometimes of the same weight, they may actually appear a bit smaller. Okay, so the next C is color. Even though white diamonds, many people consider them colorless, many stones actually have a small degree of yellow tint, and this is due to the content of nitrogen in the stones. So nitrogen is actually the most common chemical element you find in diamonds besides the pure carbon that we're most familiar with. So white diamonds are graded on a scale of D going down to Z, so there are 23 color grades with very minute differences in the yellow tint. So as you can see on the top level, D being the most colorless, there's no yellow in the stone at all. And then even going down to E, F, G, you have very little yellow tint. And this is going all the way down to Z. And when we're grading in the laboratory, these diamonds are graded against a white background, face down. So the diamond is actually graded upside down, look through the side, and we're analyzing the degree of yellow tint that a stone might have. And at the same time, the fluorescence of the stone is evaluated. Okay, and when we get beyond Z, we have a category which is referred to as fancy colored diamonds. So these are extremely rare stones. For every 10,000 colorless diamonds you might have, you maybe have 1 stone which could be considered a fancy colored diamond. As the color is the most important factor for these stones, they're graded in a bit of a different way. So they're still graded against a white background. However, we view the stones face up, and we evaluate these stones in terms of hue, tone, and saturation. So you can see an example of some of the color grades down below. The first grade after Z would be fancy light. So this is fancy light pink, fancy intense, fancy vivid, and fancy deep. This is going up in terms of saturation. And obviously the more saturated a stone is, the more valuable it's going to be, and the more rare it's going to be as well. When we're talking about color, we also need to consider where is the color coming from. So in diamonds or any other type of material, we're talking about the visible spectrum, right? Which is broken up into 7 different colors. And the way that light interacts with the material or different chemical elements, this is different for every material and specifically for every single diamond. So to give a practical example, when you look at plant life, you're very used to seeing the color green. The reason that you see green is because plants are actually absorbing every other wavelength of light except green. So this is reflected back, and this is perceived by the human eye. And the same is holding true for diamonds. So for example, these are the most common colors that you might see in diamonds. I think yellow everybody's familiar with. We have brown and we have orange as well. But these are all actually colored by the same chemical element. I mentioned it before. Does anybody know the chemical element, or might guess? Nitrogen, correct? Yes. So depending how the nitrogen is concentrated in the stone, determines how it's absorbed by different wavelengths. So at lower wavelengths, you're going to perceive yellow. Higher wavelengths, you're going to perceive orange. And also there can be some other causes. For example, differences in the atomic structure of the stones accompanying with nitrogen are going to cause a brown coloration. Okay, now moving on to a little bit more rare and a little bit more extravagant colors. So when you see blue, the blue is quite a rare color, but fancy blue, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Hope diamond, very famous diamond. It's actually caused by the content of boron in the stone. So boron primarily is absorbing the yellow wavelengths of light, which makes us perceive the color as blue. And pink is a different case actually. So pink is not due to any of the chemical elements in the stone. It's due to the fact that there are small disturbances and deformations in the atomic structure. So when these stones are put under enormous pressure in the growth process in the earth, and as a result, it causes the wavelengths of light to change a little bit and to transmit the pink color to the human eye. Okay, so when we're talking about all these colors, we have a few different categories that they can fall into. The more common colors, the more economical, affordable colors might be a light yellow, a brown, gray, even black diamond. Getting a bit higher up, we have orange, fancy yellow. So you see here, it's still yellow color, but the saturation is very strong. So these are obviously much more rare. They've had a much more time in the earth, and it's a much more valued color. Moving into the even more rare, you have blue, green, pink, and purple. And then I'm still missing one, probably the rarest diamond color. Anybody guess? Oh, red, exactly. So red is the most extremely rare diamond color, and due to the enormous pressure required to produce this color, these stones only exist in the world in very, very small sizes as well. Okay, so you can see this is an example. It's really an entire rainbow of possibility in diamond color. But even though diamond color can be caused by chemical elements, chemical impurities in the natural stones, some of these colors can actually be induced by man. So IGI has very specialized equipment to detect, how the wavelengths are absorbing in special stones, why they're that color. But sometimes we actually find stones that are treated. So it's very important to have a report, especially with a fancy colored diamond. And these same testing procedures that we use for a loose stone, we're also using for jewelry as well. So every stone mounted on the jewelry is tested to make sure the color origin is natural as well. Okay, moving on to clarity. So clarity is really a measure of the freedom of a stone from imperfections. So every diamond has small characteristics from its formation in the earth, and these are observed by a gemologist in a gemological microscope first. So every diamond report is going to have a unique map or a unique plot, so to speak, of the inclusions or crystals inside of the stone. So you see the stone on the left, there's many big crystals or medium crystals in the middle of the stone. If these crystals were maybe off to the side, the stone would have a much different clarity perhaps. Okay, so there are 11 clarity grades based on how visible these imperfections or these characteristics of the stone might be, going from flawless, which has no characteristics, and to imperfect. And imperfect is actually the only clarity range which you can observe with the human eye without any aid of magnification. Okay, and the final value factor for polished diamond is the cut grade. And this is something that's quite overlooked by many people. Because, okay, first when you see a polished diamond like you see on the left side, you need to think a little bit how a diamond polisher is going to think. You see that when you see this stone, it's an octahedron shaped diamond, kind of double pyramid shape. You need to imagine that this stone can produce 2 round brilliant diamonds. So if you look on the top right, you can see 2 stones are going to be cut from this rough material. And you see on the bottom, I put a slide here, you see very advanced planning taken to determine the most optimal way to cut a diamond. And the reason this is important, let me go back a little bit. So besides the round standard shapes you see, there's also many fancy shapes. So these are some of the more common. You have heart shape, emerald shape, cushion. And the thing with fancy shapes, there's a lot, comes a lot down to personal appeal. So it's a little bit more of a unique choice for somebody to express themselves than just a round brilliant, which everybody is familiar with. And also you have some very special cuts. So these are some stones we've seen in IGI over the years. The Buddha, I mean, the possibilities are really endless, and we really see new shapes every couple of months. We see a new shape coming into the lab. Okay, so when we're determining the cut grade, it's done with a very specialized laser machine in order to determine about 10 key proportion grade parameters. And these are included on the certificate in the relevant position, which you can see on the bottom right. This is on every IGI grading certificate. And the reason this is important is because diamonds are beautiful, diamonds are perceived well by people because they're shining. There's fire, there's sparkle. But this is only the case due to the fact that light is coming out of the stone in an optimal way. So you see on the left, a stone that's polished in an optimal way is going to return the light, allow you to see the brilliance and see the fire. Whereas a stone on the right side, polished in a non-optimal way, you're going to lose some of the light from that stone. And I'll show you a real-world example. So on the left is a perfectly polished diamond, and on the right is a diamond polished not very well. You see how on the left you're going to see a lot of fire, a lot of color. On the right you're going to see a lot of dark patches. So it's very clear which diamond that you'd want to buy if you see these two. Okay, and then the cut grade is not only determined by these proportions, but it's also going to be determined by the craftsmanship parameters, which is polish and symmetry. So the polish is really the surface condition of each individual facet of a stone, evaluated by a gemologist. And the symmetry is how those facets are going to relate to one another and relate to the overall shape of the stone. So when we put all three together, it's going to be a finished grade. And on the jewelry report, we're going to have one single grade for these three, which is going to just be a finished grade. Okay, now that I've told you about the 4 C's, let's see how they appear on a diamond grading report. Okay, it's a little blurry, but on the top left you see the date the report was issued. And this is a natural diamond grading report. And every stone is going to have a unique IGI number. We're going to have the origin of the material. So here it clearly states the stone is natural. The cutting style, the measurements are going to be there. And then the grading results are going to be listed in the same way I told you before, in descending order of importance. So you have the carat weight, the color grade, which is issued as a single grade. Same for the clarity grade, one single grade. Then the cut, the polish, the symmetry, the fluorescence, and every stone is going to have a laser inscription as well, which you can see a photo of on the top right. So this is for security and really to make sure that the report is matching with the diamond that you have. Okay, so that was a finished diamond grading report. Many times we get a question about what is the difference between a jewelry report to the diamond grading report. So effectively everything is graded in the same way, but grading finished jewelry presents some challenges as well. So we need to estimate the weight of the stones. We need to make sure that the craftsmanship is up to a level that's acceptable by IGI. And most importantly, we need to make sure that all of these small diamonds in the jewelry are of natural origin. Because when they get these small diamonds, even with a professional eye, even if I'm looking at these diamonds with my naked eye, I'm not going to be able to tell. They really require advanced machines to make sure, there's maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 stones that could be a lab grown, could be a piece of glass, could be something else.